Hey guys, DJ from PTA. I'm gonna go over September 13th trades. This is a loser for me today. CMRA was my loser, and Adtx was the big winner for the day. So I'm gonna go over both trades, kind of give you an idea what was going on that day, and how it should have been traded. Both trades actually were really good trades. Adtx was coming off of a big day from the previous day. 2 days ago, actually, prior to that, which was actually 9/9, September 9th was that day that it actually ran. The first part of the move, second part, and then the third part, which was the actual day that it took off. I mean, you're talking about an open price of 820, and we had a high of that day of 2020. So really solid trade on both the first and the third day continuation, which really was a good move for the stock. So I'm gonna go over both of those trades. I'm gonna first go over Adtx because it was a 3-part trade. You could have got in on those 3 days and really did well. So I want to kind of go over that to kind of give you an idea how that would have worked out. So the first day, which was the 9th, let's go back. Let's take a look at a 5-minute. Right here is the first day of the move, was right here on the 9th. So didn't have a lot of volume, but it did pick up volume coming up to about 2 o'clock. So this was a late day run, 2:10, 2 o'clock that time. It actually took off, ran, and made a high. So you're talking about a stock that was trading fairly low in price, and then just literally just ripped. And then we had us a nice rip after pre-market the next day, and then a nice little fade, but it ended up holding this area here around 8, and then on this day is when it actually took off. So because there wasn't a lot of volume on the pre-market that day, it literally had about 9,900. So you had to wait for that first run up. This is what brought in the volume for the first move. Once we hit this high, which I will mark as A, part of the ABC strategy, this area here was your ideal area pick for this stock to actually move higher. So right here was A. We flatlined here at B. We had a quick pop up, and then we started to curl. And I believe this is where most people were kind of looking at it there. So this was a great little wedge going into the stock. So probably right here is about where the entry break was. So looking at that price on the level 2, it was about 1350s. So let me put that in there for you like this. Looked like it was about a 1350 break entry day. Looking at it, yeah, about 1350. It started to kind of get tight right there, and then took off on that 5-minute. So let's push it back down to a 1-minute to find a more precise area of interest when it came to this particular stock. So as you can see, it started to really top out here, and it started to squeeze higher. Once we got that break over the 1350s, and looked like it just kept screaming from there. So literally from 1350 area, our first leg up, it was about a $6.30 move. So a good $6 move just from there. Your risk about 30 cent, 60 cent for the largest portion of the risk, but it probably would have been more like 30-cent risk right here from the 1350. So you probably saw a little bit of protection around 13s, which would probably been questionable or looked at on the level 2. But this was really a good move on the upside. I'm looking at that area in particular as your wedge going into after your first leg up. We had a little bit of a bounce, and then it took off. And then it just continued to move higher into the pre-market hours. So I mean, it ended up topping out at 29, and this was a similar move here. we actually had some wedge popped over, and then once it popped over, it settled, did another wedge, got over this little area, I would say probably about 1960s, and then from there it took off and went to 29. Just a great move, great sensible play. Just had to be patient and wait for it. And I believe most other traders probably piled in right here, just looking at the sheer volume that came with it. And this was the biggest volume move. This was probably just another push because the volume just kind of plateaued out because there was no one else. Shorts probably had tried to jump in pretty heavy right here to pull it down, because if you look at any of the other short moves, it wasn't higher than this short move here. So when that short move came, definitely got a push down, and then it took off, and it looked like it held right here. So if you take a look at that, if you pay attention and look at the chart, you can see that right there, right where it topped out at previously, which was right here around that 1649, the high of that candle 1650. Amazing enough, it's a whole number, but let's look at that, and I'm gonna put that as a intraday high. So we're gonna mark that purple because it ended up making that high, broke over it, and you see that it tested it 1, 2, 3, 4 times at 1650 before leaving that area. So 1650 was a critical area. At 1650 was the springboard for the move up to the 29s. And that's how kind of you have to look at the stock when you see stuff break out, come back and retest. If you look here, this level here, right at the level, was the first springboard to the higher move back up over this area here. So if you can look closely, just playing it off the lines, you can look here and see that right there 1990 was an area. So let me go back here, change this to purple, and you can see right here this $11, which was previous week high, previous week high was $11. When it touched there, it actually hit there, pulled back, and broke higher. Then it broke down, used this 11 area as a springboard to go higher. It broke, hit this 1990 area about approximately, pulled back and used this 1650 as support 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then it exhausts itself coming into after hours. So it's one of those things that you really got to pay attention to when it comes to trading, is those support areas where the stock is actually using it as support. Those prices are area, and it's not going to be a specific price, but it's always an area. It's always a supply zone or a demand zone or some sort that the stock is going to use to either move higher or lower from. And you can see that looking at this chart to give you a concept of where those areas were. And that's where, becoming an effective trader, looking at those areas is where it gets critical for you to understand, okay, this stock wants to move higher because it's leaving from this zone. It might go from 1650 to 19. That's a good $3.40 move, just playing it from line to line. But knowing where the lines are, knowing where the areas are, so you can take profit or take a hit or take a loss or whatever the case may be. You want to play off of those critical areas into the chart so that you can size in the trades properly, know where to take profit, so on and so forth. So Adtx, great trade, whether you played it on day 1 or day 3. Both days were just a really solid trade from start to finish. So the next stock we're going to go over is the loser that I did, which is CMRA. Yep, CMRA. So on this day, we had us a nice little rip. One of the key zones was here, which was where it broke down. I would say even here played as a good area. Right there. So maybe $2.90, and then $2.70 pretty much act as a zone. So as the stock pulled back up into this area, the next area of interest was here, right around this 404. We'll just call it 405 mark, just for the sake of numbers. So these were my areas that I was looking at, and what essentially happened was I ended up getting into the trade. I took a loss on it. I respected my risk, respected my areas, and I wasn't too upset about the trade. I was more so upset at the fact that my thesis was right, my timing was off. So, and it happens. Sometimes it just what it is. I got in at 292. I was looking for this particular break here. Let's see something here. This particular break here. So when it pulled back into here, I thought right here is where it was going to snap. I figured it might pull back a little bit and snap. It actually went a little bit higher. And I got in at 292, so right around here. It actually went a little bit higher, pulled back, went a little bit higher, and then it got me out. So it was about a 20-cent risk. So it got me out here, pulled back, and then it reclaimed. And this is where I should have gotten in at. But based on the price action, I was confident. I was thinking it was a lot of volume. It seemed that this stock wanted to move. So I was a little late to the party. Should have waited till a little bit later, because this is where the actual rip happened. And it went from 270 back up to 4. So knowing that these were key areas, I was trying to play around those key areas for breaks or whatever. I shouldn't have played it so high up in the price. Should have pulled back, because I thought that this was an intraday support around 270, 280, 282. So with that, I'm thinking that, okay, this is going to go higher, might get a move up. And this is actually where I got in at. Got in here, got me in, didn't clock out, and then kept going higher. So when it went up higher, I thought this 297 after getting in here was actually going to pull up, but it actually faded. So it got stuck. So ultimately, the area was like somewhere around here. Right around that $3 mark is where everyone probably should have got in at. But when they rung it back under this 270 and then rip it above, this was your ideal area to get in. So let me show you that on the 1 minute, because you just see green candles. But right here is where it got quiet, and then it ramped back up, and then it pulled back very quickly here. When it pulled back very quickly here and held that 270, it just shot up. And then everyone else who missed the trade got in here, shot up. And then everyone else who didn't want to miss the trade jumped in here for this move. So once they seen it holding over pre-market high, or at least consolidating here, and then it ripped higher. So 370s from 317, and then it pulled back, shook out the weak longs, went back, gathered it right here in this zone. So right there, about 330s, 327s. They came back, gathered a little bit more, and then sent it higher to 428. So I wasn't mad about the trade, small loss, but realistically, should have been more patient with the trade. I actually tried to play it closer, and the reason why I thought that this rip right here was going to happen, just because they pulled it down lower, and then it started to hold. So I'm thinking it's going to rip and keep going, because you got traps here, but they actually pulled back and trapped even more here before they ripped it higher. And it happens. Sometimes you miss the trade. This would have been one of those times and where the psychology of trading comes in, that is that you still could have lost on this trade here, but seen this and knew, okay, let me take another crack at it. Timing was off. Let me get in here and then catch the bulk of the move. And that's where some traders miss out and lose. It's because they get so fragile from the first loss in the trade, they don't take advantage of the second part of the trade, even though they see it and it lines perfectly straight like it's supposed to. That's where the patience, the timing, and those type of things play a part. I just got in too early, but the thesis of it going higher was there. So something to think about when you're in a trade. Can you take that trade, and if you lose, can you come back to it with that same thought process? Wait for your setup, take the trade. You win, great. You lose, great. You still be able to take another trade. Because even if I had got in here, took some off here and broke even, can I get back into that trade to take the meat of the move higher? Because I've been stalking it, looking at it all day. A lot of traders lose their mind when it comes to that. Placing a trade on another loser because they scared to lose again. And that's how the stock get you spooked. Get you spooked, and then it goes higher. So guys, if you have any questions, concerns, leave it in the comments section. Make sure you hit that like button. That helps out with the YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos. And guys, like I tell old traders and new, stay studying and stay focused.